Hi there, I'm Steve Cody, Rep Man, as I'm sometimes called. Welcome back to another edition of RepTV, the video version of Rep Man. Today's subject is going to be all about religion, politics, atheism, millennials. It should be very cool. As always, I'm joined by my crack co-host, Paul Mershon, and my new co-host, Marion the Librarian Daniels, aka MTL. To my immediate left, far left, which would be your far right, is our Chief Financial Officer, Debbie Salerno, who is proud to say she's also an atheist.
Correct.
And to my far right, which would be your immediate left, is Samantha Samuel L. Bruno, a senior account executive here at Peppercom, and a devout Christian.
Correct.
Okay, so let's get to the matter at hand. So it's my observation that in watching a lot of the presidential debates, in particular the Republican debates, that the candidates seem to really be intertwining religion and politics. Many made it very clear as soon as they're elected they're going to overturn Roe v. Wade. Others are looking to go right after Colorado, state of Washington, Oregon, yank away that free cannabis. I have some issues with that one personally, but so anyway, there's this intertwining of religion and politics that we'd like both Debbie and Samuel to comment on. At the same time, I'm holding in my hands a recent Pew Research, that's P-E-W Research study, that found that more than 1/3 of millennials say they are now atheists. And as a matter of fact, a survey of 35,000 Americans showed that the Christian percentage of the population is at its lowest point ever. So these are interesting times. So how do politicians who are aligning themselves with religion reach out and connect with this group of millennials as well as this dwindling group of Christians? So my question is this, to Debbie first and then Samuel. How, if at all, does a candidate's religious views impact your voting?
It has a strong impact on my voting, especially if they want to blur the lines between church and state and pull in all these issues as part of their platform. I'm a very big supporter of separation of church and state, being an atheist. I think people in their private lives should do what they want to do. But we worked very hard to have all these laws passed and include freedoms for everybody, and women's right to choose, gay marriage, all those things are progressive and important for our country, and I think that we just need to keep going on that path.
Okay, Sam?
Yeah, I think to Debbie's point, I think that religion is a very personal thing. So for myself, well, I am Christian, and so my relationship with God is very important to me. It is important when it comes to where a candidate stands. In an ideal world, obviously I'd love to have elected officials who have the same, beliefs as I do, but at the same time, it's not a deciding factor. I'm not going to only vote for someone because they claim to be Christian, but their track record doesn't back up, or they're not what I think is going to be good for the country as a whole. And I do think religion is very personal. I mean, it's based on how you grew up, what you've experienced, and I'm not sure the place of all of it when it comes to church and state. I do think that there are some issues that are for church and some that's for specifically the state house. So I do think that there needs to be some sort of separation there, but of course it does impact how I hear things that candidates are kind of platforming on as well.
Paul?
Well, one of the stats that you mentioned, Steve, was the 1/3 of millennials, the research found, are unaffiliated with any faith. So that would mean could be atheist, agnostic, or just right now not attending a certain particular religion. As a millennial, Sam, and also as a person with a religious background,
sure.
Does that statistic speak to you? Are you seeing that there is sort of a lack of faith in faith, so to speak, in the younger demographic in the United States? How is that affecting the way that this younger demographic goes about looking at politics, for example? I mean, have you seen from your personal experiences that this stat does reflect what goes on in real life?
Yes, unfortunately for me, I think it does. Full disclosure, I'm a pastor's kid, so I've grown up in church. I've been very involved. Not so much anymore when it comes to youth group, but that was something that I spent a long time, participating in and leading. So it's a struggle, I think. And I think there's a lot of parallels between what millennials are looking for in a church, as well as what they're looking for when it comes to elected officials and in politics as well. Most millennials now, there's so many things at our fingertips, whether it's internet, social media, we're constantly being marketed to, that most millennials are looking for a very authentic experience. I think that there's a myth about if you have really cool music and lights and smoke machines when you go to a church, that means it's focused on millennials and that's going to get the message across. But most people go to church because they're looking for purpose, meaning they might feel lost, they may have just gone through a tragic loss. There's a lot of reasons that kind of bring you to that. And I think that because we have information overload all the time, you can be preached at all day long, but for me at least, it has a lot to do with what am I actually seeing from the pastor, from the people who are attending that church, and is it real, is it true, is it authentic, or are we being preached at one thing in the building but then we're not doing anything in the community, there's nothing that kind of brings it outside the four walls of the church.
So perhaps a good summary to those points, and this is an article from CNN that cited this research, says it quoted an expert on this saying that Christianity in the U.S. hasn't done a good job of engaging serious Christian reflection. Perhaps we can even go further and say that politicians who espouse religious views and Christian views also do not do a good job of engaging that reflection that you're talking about. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I think it's hard. I mean, even for myself growing up and I think it might be especially hard for people actually who grew up in church, because you see so much, and we say, okay, we serve a perfect God, but there's very, very imperfect people who run churches. Same when it comes to a CEO of a company, not you of course, but CEOs of companies.
Actually, does apply to me.
Okay, but just leaders in general. I mean, there's so many more expectations, and so easy that if you do make a mistake, you are now in the public light, and people hold you to this higher standard. So I think that it's easy for people to see something happen in a church setting and automatically, oh God, if there's a God, that wouldn't have happened, or that wouldn't affect. And I'm not saying that's everybody, but I think that from a millennial perspective, we want to be challenged in our faith too. I think that people, when they're going to church, they want to hear a message that challenges them on a personal level, what they can be doing, and whether it's from a religious perspective or just what can they be doing to help the needy, or some of those things.
So can I interrupt?
Yes, absolutely.
I'd like Debbie, who is just past the millennial age,
Yes, exactly.
to comment on why you think millennials have turned away from religion in such large numbers, and do you think that trend will continue?
Well, I agree with Sam on millennials looking for an authentic experience from things. And I think they grew up also in an interesting age where you have the internet and you have social media where you can get information not just from your local community, your local church, or your family. You can reach out and get it from all different sources. But you've also grown up in a time where terrorism is everywhere, and 9/11 and all those things, where they're all attached to religion.
Yeah.
And then the Tea Party exploded and all these things, and and I feel like these are all negative things that show you what religion can do to your life if you become so over the edge, and extremism. And they may believe in God, they may like all the things that Jesus has taught, which I think are wonderful teachings. But they don't like the other things pushed down their throats, that you have to do it this way. You can't be gay. You can't all the other evangelical Tea Party platforms that they push out at everybody. I think that turns millennials against it.
And one question about that: this same article cited the notion of religious morality, and I know that's a term that you don't favor, and many politicians have that as a platform talking about some things that you mentioned earlier, women's health, abortion, same-sex marriage, climate change. Why is that term, especially in the political arena, that needs to disappear in order to attract more voters, such as yourself and other millennials who are disenfranchised with religion? Why does that term, religious morality, need to disappear?
Well, I think they don't always go together. Morality can be attached to anything, and I'm a moral atheist. So I just think that the Republicans are great at taglines. They're great at pushing the message through in very quick sound bites that grab hold. Pro-life. You know, I am pro-choice, but I'm not anti-life. So,
yeah, that would be difficult.
Right. So it's just that. It just excludes everybody else from being moral, which is completely false.
Marion?
Debbie, if I may, one of the things that you mentioned was wanting to see that greater separation between church and state. And one of the arguments that we hear a lot of the time from the other side is that our country was founded on a lot of those religious ideals. So can you and how can you separate those truly without necessarily acknowledging the Christian history?
This is not a Christian nation. You could read Sam Harris's book, that this is not a Christian nation. That's another thing that the Christians, because it's such a big population, have decided to turn the actual truth of history on its head.
Could be honest. Christians.
They are very good. Religious freedom is what this country has been built on, not just Christian principles. That, you know, we have all different religions, and we have non-religions, and that's what we need to allow to continue. And if you allow one religion to lead the government, everybody else gets left behind.
I actually want to add on to what Debbie's saying, because I agree. I think one of the benefits to the U.S. in general is just the fact that everyone is allowed to believe whatever they want. And I think even when you break down Christianity, 70% or whatever it is in this article, that's a huge population, but we're not all evangelical Christians, we're not all Protestant. So even in terms of that, every religion has the things that they're good at, the things that they're not good at, and I think that kind of adds to the different layers as you go as well.
Right.
And so I think that that's really important to preserve. While I'm a Christian, and that's because that's personal to me, I understand that everybody has their own, based on their own experiences, and I think that it would be sad if all of that was taken away. So I just want to agree with Debbie on that.
Well, let me ask a question, both of you.
Sure.
Okay, so 30% of the population non-Christian, 1/3 of all millennials calling themselves atheist, agnostic, whatever. If you are the Republican candidate, I was going to say how in God's name, how do you connect with those two audiences that you are basically alienating with what you're saying?
Well, I'm hoping they can't.
Well, that's pretty direct, all right. So you don't have a solution to that.
I prefer they keep going down the path that they're going down.
Keep alienating. Okay. Let's turn to you then.
That's fair enough. I think that, at least for me, and I know obviously it might be hard, I'm a little biased because I am Christian, but I think if I wasn't, I would still want the message that's being, put across. I want to see that authenticity. I want to know that it's not just rhetoric. It's not just, okay, they want to reach this voter base, which is strong, and you do have religious leaders who will get behind candidates and kind of encourage people to vote for them. And so are we just pandering to that? But then once we do get in office, it was really just smoke and mirrors, and nothing is really behind that. And again, I'm not voting for a candidate specifically because of what they say, but whether they're Christian, non-Christian, religious, Democratic, Democratic, Republican, is what they're saying really something that they
So
can back up?
if the ideal candidate, in terms of your beliefs, happened to be Islamic, would you vote for him?
That would be hard. I'm not gonna lie, that would be hard. That would be very hard.
Any non-Christian candidate would be hard for you to vote for.
I don't know. I've never put in that position, so I don't know if I have a solid answer for you. I think it would take a lot more consideration before I made a decision, if that was the case.
Go ahead, Paul.
I think we're
I
almost
just
up on.
want to
Yeah.
Please,
add
Debbie.
on to that. I think it's difficult right now for us to say, because we have grown up
Yeah.
mostly Christians and everything in our lives, that we don't know how some other religions are, people who are very religious can separate their feelings about their religion and how things should be handled versus what's the best thing for a
Yeah.
country that is not just one religion. So I
Yeah.
agree, it's hard to say.
hard.
I mean, I feel that I would be open to anybody, but I can also see my biases saying,
Yeah.
you know, well, in that religion, this is vital to it,
Yeah.
but I am opposed to that, or I think it would be bad for our population. So I can see.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Marion, do you have a...
Well, I just, that was a good point. You know, if everyone kind of has certain biases to some, if you were to take out any sort of religious affiliation for all of the candidates, you know, how might that impact their reputation and their authentic messages? That's kind of an open-ended question, but
Right, well, but
but
that's-
if everyone, if they level that playing field, how does that impact everyone's approach?
Right, that's what they should be doing, in my opinion. They should be putting religion aside and focusing on the issues that are important for driving this
Do you
issue
agree?
forward.
For me, I think that's another one that's hard to, because it's always been this way. So I think it's hard for me to even imagine what it would be like if religion was completely scrubbed from some of these like really hot button topics. I think it would be less controversial if over a period of time that's kind of the direction that it went in. But I also think people would be up in arms. The
Okay.
70% of people, I think, would have something to say.
Unless you have something to add, we're going to end with predictions, a la McLaughlin Group. Within the next 20 years, will we see a non-Christian elected president? Yes or no?
It's possible.
Yes or no?
Do you-
Yes or no?
Yes or no?
yes, I think yes, I think
Paul?
it's possible.
No, I don't think that will happen in the next 20 years.
Marion?
No.
Debbie?
I have faith, absolutely.
Open up faith.
On that note, thank you very much. This is Steve Cody signing off for yet another RepTV.